Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're managing modern workspaces, you already know that deploying applications securely and efficiently across an enterprise is absolutely crucial. Today, we're taking a definitive look at the architectural framework for Microsoft Intune application deployment. We are going to break down the precise under-the-hood mechanics of Win32 and Store apps, drawing from Endpoint Weekly's comprehensive guide, so you can automate your deployments like a pro.
Because honestly, every Intune deployment decision eventually comes down to the exact same question: Win32 or Store? Architecting this correctly is a total game changer. It means silent deployments and seamless enterprise automation. But getting it wrong? Well, we've all been there. It means spending your Friday afternoon hunting down failed Intune management extensions and chasing broken detection rules during zero-hour deployments. The stakes for your environment are high.
So, to equip you with a rock-solid framework, we'll cover 6 architectural pillars today. 1. Control versus convenience. 2. The Win32 control engine. 3. Store apps delivery. 4. A head-to-head comparison. 5. Autopilot ingestion rules. And finally, 6. IME troubleshooting. Let's dive right in.
Starting with Section 1, Control versus Convenience, we really need to establish the core trade-off sitting right at the heart of endpoint management.
Okay, so the crucial piece of the puzzle here is the Intune Management Extension, or the IME. Think of Win32 as routing literally everything through this local agent running on the device. Because it uses the agent, you get complete granular administrative control. But there's a catch: you also carry complete responsibility for making it work. Store deployments, on the other hand, bypass this agent entirely. You trade that fine-grained line-by-line control for absolute convenience. We're talking direct cloud-native delivery via WinGet, automatic background updates, and zero packaging overhead.
Moving to Section 2, the Win32 control engine. When you need absolute authority over an installation, this is your baseline.
Win32 is the undisputed enterprise heavy lifter. It handles your standard executables, complex MSIs, and those brilliant PowerShell wrapped installers you've custom built for your specific environment. But it does require some prep work. Before your app ever hits the Azure CDN, you have to package your source folder into a .IntuWin file using the Microsoft Win32 Content Prep tool. This compresses and encrypts the package, ensuring top-tier enterprise security during transit.
Now, once you upload and assign that package in the Intune dashboard, it kicks off a highly orchestrated process. The IME agent on the endpoint pulls Intune every 8 hours by default. When it spots on a segment, it downloads and decrypts the package from the Azure CDN, then silently executes the installer in the system context. But Step 5 is where the magic, or frankly, the misery, happens. Intune relies entirely on your detection rules to mark the installation as a success.
And let me tell you, field engineers constantly flag one specific failure point here. The number one trap is writing detection rules that target temporary extraction paths instead of the final binaries. Think about it. The installer succeeds, the temp path gets erased, and boom, on the next check-in, the app erroneously reports as failed. Absolute precision is required here, guys.
Let's shift gears to Section 3, Store apps and cloud-native delivery. This is where we leverage the WinGet and MSIX ecosystems for a truly hands-off experience. This brilliantly illustrates the modern simplicity we all crave. There is literally no packaging. You just drop a direct store link or an app URI right into Intune. Intune then sends a WinGet policy down to the Windows device, and Windows natively handles the download directly from the Microsoft Store's CDN. The best part? The Microsoft Store background sync service automatically handles all subsequent version updates. No IME involvement, and you never have to write a single detection rule. It's beautiful.
However, that cloud convenience does require proper architecture. You absolutely must utilize the 2023 WinGet integrated Microsoft Store app type. And more importantly, you need to verify your enterprise firewalls and conditional access policies. Because this method bypasses the standard Intune delivery channels, overly restrictive network perimeters will cause these deployments to fail completely silently. So keep an eye on that.
Moving on to Section 4, the head-to-head comparison. Let's look at the data to see where each engine mathematically outshines the other. As you can see, it's not about one being inherently better. It's about picking the right tool for the job. The Store completely eliminates packaging overhead and seamlessly handles background updates, which is a massive win for your day-to-day maintenance. But Win32 remains absolutely mandatory when you're dealing with complex dependency chaining, when you need specific pre- and post-install scripts,
custom command line switches, or offline deployments where the package is cached on the Azure CDN.
So, what's the real-world consensus among top-tier endpoint architects? It's highly practical. They mandate Win32 for legacy line-of-business apps, anytime you need strict version pinning, or for Microsoft 365 apps that require Office Deployment Tool channel control. Conversely, they utilize store apps for standard consumer tools like VLC or 7-Zip. Embracing this hybrid approach is how you drop your failure rates to near zero.
All right, Section 5, Autopilot App Ingestion Rules. This is absolutely critical for keeping users from reaching the desktop prematurely. Windows Autopilot strictly respects a very specific timeline, and understanding this flow prevents the most common provisioning failures. After the initial Entra join, you hit the Enrollment Status Page, or ESP. Now, Win32 device-targeted required apps deploy during the device phase. It is only after this, when the user actually signs in, that user-targeted required apps deploy during the account phase. You've got to align your app assignments with this exact sequence.
To enforce this timeline, you use the ESP setting to block the device until all required apps are installed. But listen to this stark warning from Microsoft MVP Michael Niehaus. You must test your required apps in the ESP device phase thoroughly before enabling this block in production. Why? Because a single failure of a required app right here will effectively brick the entire Autopilot provisioning process for that device. It's an incredibly powerful tool, but it requires rigorous testing.
And finally, Section 6, IME logs and troubleshooting. No matter how perfectly architected your environment is, Day 2 operations require maintenance. When you crack open those Intune Management Extension diagnostic logs, you're going to see some very specific patterns. Exit code 1603, that's a fatal error, usually requiring you to manually test the installer as system to see what's actually breaking. Exit code 3010 actually means success, but a reboot is required. You just need to map that code in Intune. And if you see detection failed, MVP Peter van der Woude has a great tip. Never detect on an MSI product code alone for complex apps. Always detect on the actual binary the user will run, because MSI codes often completely miss partial installs or upgrade failures.
Oh, and here is an absolute gem from MVP Rudy Ohms. The IME uses a local SQLite database to track app states. If that database gets corrupted, say after a botched Windows upgrade, apps will permanently report an incorrect state back to Intune. The fix is remarkably simple. You just stop the IME service, manually delete that SQLite DB file, and restart the service. The IME will resync cleanly from the Intune portal within minutes. It's a lifesaver. So, armed with this architectural framework, the choice is ultimately yours. Are you going to continue burning hours on unnecessary packaging overhead, or will you optimize your baseline using cloud-native delivery? Thanks for joining me on this explainer today. I challenge you to audit your Intune environment right now. Which applications can you confidently migrate to the modern store today? See you next time.